Senator Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I think as many of you can see in this room, the different directions that we're talking about here in terms of the direction that we need to go. Some of us are interested in having the regulatory oversight actually be identified as the problem here versus suggesting that the big bad banks are suddenly doing this all on their own. Let's walk our way through this. Mr. McCauley, it's good to see you again. I'm glad that you decided that South Dakota was the right home base for you when you started the state-chartered trust facilities that you've got. You shared with us the challenge that you had in getting banked. First of all, you are the first and only federally chartered crypto bank, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And Anchorage Digital is both a qualified custodian and has a conditional OCC bank charter. What's the nature of the accounts at the other banks? Checking accounts?
Basic checking accounts and holding our capital reserves. And then further, we, as a condition of our charter, hold cash for our clients at partner banks.
So any of that illegal?
Absolutely not.
So you ever overdraft?
No.
So in other words, it's not a reason, it's not a case of a business reason why anybody would want to not do business with you other than the fact that you were a crypto or you would hold crypto in trust for other people. And that was a no-no.
That's right. And to put a finer point on it, the bank that debanked us was actively trying to work with us more.
But for some reason, there appears to be a point at which they said, we can't do this with you anymore. Was it because they didn't want to bank with you? The answer to that is no, that wasn't the case. What was the case? What was it?
They wanted to bank with us, and many of the other banks that we reached out to after that bank account was closed also wanted to work with us. This was consistent across the board that banks did want to work with us, were not discriminating against us, but they were worried about regulatory risk.
So you weren't doing an illegal activity like cannabis, which is federally illegal to do, and you weren't overdrafting. You were simply part of a legal industry that banks were told by regulators would be a problem for the bank. Is that correct?
That's right. I'm a bit of a square. I like rules. I like following rules, and so we've always followed all the rules and regulations.
Mr. Gannon, thank you, sir. Mr. Gannon, you've represented financial institutions. Are you finding that these banks simply don't want to do business with people, or is it a matter of, for people that will follow the law, that aren't violating the law, and that are not business risks of simply overdrafting their accounts, these banks want to look for business, but because of a regulatory environment that they have been in, they have been forced to decide whether they want to do business with certain types of industries, whether they were gun manufacturers, people that sold guns, people that did the terrible thing of being in the business of crypto activity and so forth, were now suddenly being identified because of the type of business that they had, which was a legal business, by regulators who are coming down hard on them. What can a regulator do to a bank that doesn't want to comply with their demand, whether it be written or implied?
Senator, the regulators can do quite a bit. The banks are not making this up. They like to have customers, like all businesses like to have customers. Regulators have a lot of tools subject almost to their complete discretion. And
supervisory in nature.
Supervisory tools.
The auditors walk in and say, guess what? You got a problem. A camel rating might change, correct?
Correct. Like
what happens if a camel rating changes for a bank? Let's say it goes from a 2 to a 3. What happens? Do they get bonded?
That they don't. That's a very, very bad result, Senator. What happens is you're pretty much locked out of any ability to expand. What you pay for your FDIC insurance goes up, and there are a lot of other strictures on what you can do as you go forward and attempt to grow your business. So that really is the big hammer that the regulators have. And management rating can be almost everything. One of the things that's remarkable is if you look at the Fed's supervisory report from November of 2024, you will find out that they say 2/3 of the large banks in the United States are not well managed. Those same banks, and we have a chart on this in our written statement, those same banks have record levels of capital and liquidity. And I can tell you, Senator, they also invest enormous amounts in technology, in community reinvestment, et cetera, perhaps higher than any time in history. Yet somehow 2/3 of them are not well managed.
Thank you.
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I just really appreciate you taking the time to have this hearing, and I think the focus of what's happening to banks who want to do business with legitimate businesses and the struggle they've had with a supervisory approach for the last couple of years, which has put pressure on them for what they consider to be inappropriate types of legal businesses, and this has got to stop.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
Mr.